SCP, this little universe in the corner of the internet at first seems to be the same unapproachable creepypasta, but it's grown much farther than that. So, what is this user generated media project, and why? The SCP, standing for Secure, Contain, Protect Foundation, is a fictional organization that contains anomalous phenomena for preserving public ignorance. This can be practically anything, whether they be magic objects, areas with very strange physics, and of course, eldritch monsters. It began on 4chan, kinda obviously, with SCP 173, which was posted to the Paranormal X board. Instead of relying on brutal descriptions of death like most creepypastas back then, it created a much more existential dread, and with the paranormal being real and whatnot, so it became extremely popular, and 6 months later they created the first SCP wiki, which would flesh out this world and the questions that SCP-173 created. The main premise of the wiki are its SCP articles, which are written as formal clinical entries to the Foundation's database. While there are some entries that break the format, most SCP articles contain an object class that measures how easy it is to contain the object, a special containment procedure, which describes how the Foundation keeps the object in line, and the description, which describes the SCP. Anyone can write an SCP, although the site's users decide if it stays up. These are all classified as part of the new weird genre, with the site as a whole being some sort of collaborative fiction, and over the years the site has accumulated more than 5,000 SCPs and counting. In fact, the founders describe it as the largest collaborative writing project ever. However, it's not just the SCP articles that are on the site, there are also tales, which are structured as a story and centralized in the Foundation's sister site, the Wanderer's Library, which focuses on the Serpent's Hand and the anomalous group. The main site also has different formats other than the SCP format for the other groups of interests, which are other organizations in the universe. Even within the Foundation verse's unique flavor of documentation, there are still variations. For example, an article from the Wilson's Wildlife Solutions group would be a lot more casual in comparison to an article from the Global Occult Coalition. Although SCP doesn't necessarily have characters per se, there are the doctors, the personnel, such as Dr. Cliff or Dr. Bright, who originate from site members, most of them being staff. SCP also has several persons of interest, who, alongside Foundation staff, are featured in tales in SCP articles. Now, this is a very large fandom that contains a lot of lurkers, people who don't post anything, so it's kind of hard to pin down popular site, but other than the wiki itself, about half the fandom falls to subreddit, though this was actually just a really recent change, and there are many official SCP channels on different websites, mostly due to the nature of SCP fan content. While it may seem that the fandom consists of many writers, that's actually not really the case. A statistically small percentage, currently around 7%, actually write articles. This was obviously higher in the past. Obviously, everybody reads the articles, but there haven't been many studies on the percentages of fan-made content. You've got your standard art and fan fiction sources, but what makes SCP stand out is that it's less of a piece of media and more of a source to draw from, mostly due to its copyright policy. This means that SCP fan content can be practically anything: card games, animations, short films, coffee mugs, Minecraft mods. SCP uses the Creative Commons license, which allows users to share, adapt, or even make money off of fan content, given proper attribution and stuff, which I suspect is part of the reason why fan content is so diverse. There's no British Empire striking down copyright violators like Fangame. There is one game I do want to focus on though: SCP Containment Breach, a free open source game developed by Jonas Rikkonen, aka Regal. SCP is rather difficult to just stumble upon. Those who found accidentally are only about 5%, and it instead spreads through the social media platform. SCP games are the largest source of new users, and Containment Breach brought in a lot of the most popular authors and staff today. YouTubers, mostly gaming YouTubers like Markiplier, were able to use SCP games as part of their content, thus bringing in more users to the site. Alternatively, there are also SCP reading channels. SCP's survival and avoidance of the fate of many other collaborative writing projects can be attributed to the content creators and their ability to spread media over a large space. Extremely smooth transition to demographics. An overwhelmingly large amount, about 82% of the fandom, is male, 10% female, 3% non-binary, 1% gender fluid, 1% agender, and 1% other. Half of the site is about 15 to 19 years old, which makes sense given the audience of YouTubers. The next largest group is 20 to 24 with 18.5%. under 15 was 15.6%, 25 to 29 6.2%, and from then on the percentage goes down with age. Now, the minimum age for an SCP account, understandably, is 15, which sort of contradicts with the 15% of fandom that's under that age. While being able to view articles without an account does contribute to it, many had theorized that this is the result of YouTubers such as Markiplier playing the game. Some are concerned about the quality of SCPs going down with younger users, though it's not much of an issue as the site's quality control could easily stop it. And the biggest concern is the discussion of mature topics. Although Foundation articles themselves are pretty dark, most fan content, especially those being marketed to wider audiences, doesn't reach that level. Instead, they end up being similar to Five Nights at Freddy's or Bendy and the Ink Machine, which are very popular amongst under 18s, similarly to the SCP fan games. Horror, yes, but not existential dread. With all media, and especially if it's a mythos, there are bound to be lighter takes, such as the oversimplified SCP comic. Okay, back to your scheduled demographics. 51.6%, or about half, lives in America, all other countries being at or below 2%, with the exception of Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Poland, and the UK. Although do note that this is just for the English site, since SCP does have quite an international following. In addition to the English site, there are 13 other foreign language sites, plus the international branch, plus 5 unofficial ones, and a language incubator. These sites don't just have translations of English SCPs, they also have their own unique SCPs designated with their language code. The biggest groups are the Russian, Japanese, and Chinese communities, but I won't go too much into those. As previously stated, what differentiated SCP from competing creepypasta is that the focus wasn't on the blood and gore, although there are still elements of that in things like exploration logs. While anyone can write an SCP, the site has a voting function which determines whether or not that SCP will remain on the site. Also, articles can still be edited with additions by other authors. The original author also has the option to edit using the criticism to take the article out of the negative zone, which is partially the purpose of such a community. Those that fail the voting test with a negative score get deleted. What makes a good SCP has changed over time. By the way, I am really generalizing here. This is a super complicated topic that has a lot of nuances that I don't understand at all. But in the beginning there was Edge, but after the move to Wikidot, they entered into a period currently known as LOL Foundation. Without that, as you might expect, was funny instead of scary. This was considered a drop in quality, with several unpopular tactics developing, such as data expunged repeatedly, cross-references, knockoffs to older articles, and pop culture references. Anyways, backlash happened, and they deleted things in the mass edit. This made things much more higher quality and was another reason why SCP survived. After a massive draw, the no canon mindset developed. As new users joined, there was a divide between what they liked and what older users liked, and these interests often clashed. But over time, SCP has become more welcoming. Many agree that the classics of Series 1, the first SCPs, would never have survived if they were published in this time. There isn't a single secret, it's just really creative writing skills in general, and although the bar is set quite low in terms of professional writing, in terms of internet writing, it's quite high, so not everything goes. You can't just write another thing that kills you, it has to be interesting. Remember, not all SCPs are dark. They can also be lighthearted, neutral, or just sad. Also, the ones that are dark are a lot more subtle about it. Some articles contain a format break, where the nature of the SCP forces the article to be written in a non-standard way. More joke-like SCPs are added as -Js instead of on the main. Now, there is a large gap between the popularity of the 5 most popular SCPs, 173, 096, 106, 049, and 682, and the rest of the SCPs. And people are definitely irritated because there's so much more to SCP than just these 5. It's much more than creepy monsters. SCP is a literary phenomenon. Most memes are based around these 5, bringing in more people into the fandom. SCP is quite difficult to get into given the massive amounts of content there are on the wiki, and thus the site operates an explained wiki and a subreddit. Oh, it's time to describe the topic in one sentence. Existential dread. in your pocket. SCP is very interesting since it's the only collaborative project that has survived and grown so much. There have been others such as Orion's Arm, a sci-fi series, and The Holders, also about the paranormal. However, none of them have reached the same amount of influence as SCP. In addition to the fan content mentioned earlier, SCP was able to survive mainly due to its policy of no canon, or rather, multiple overlapping different canon hubs, each which contain a different timeline. The site as a whole doesn't have any rules. While some SCPs do reference each other, there is no one singular timeline that can be followed throughout the entire site. The very nature of the Foundation allows contradictions, whereas both Orion's Arm and the Holders had rigid canons. Orion's Arm had strict physics, thus limiting the amount of ideas. SCP became what it is today because of maximum access to human ingenuity. However, like all public projects, it's also susceptible to attack. While vandalism isn't that much of an issue, copyright definitely is. Russian businessman Andrei Duksin obtained an illegal copyright on the logo of the Russian SCP branch by using the wonky copyright laws of Russia and used it to threaten the site. Twice. Although also during the site's beginnings, a lot of people used random images just pulled off the internet, so recently they've been replacing them with copyright-free ones. Oh, and one more thing. Remember Siren Head? Never say it's an SCP, because it's not. They will kill you. SCP's presence isn't really that apparent, although references are clear. The most common is the use of redacted and data expunged, found in many SCP articles. References to the Foundation are becoming more commonplace. On my excursions on YouTube, I found several people who write SCPs on the topic of the video. It's a fandom that may not appear too much, but when it does, it's pretty clear. Many of the writers for SCP are published authors, and then there are quite a few SCP-inspired projects in the works by large companies. SCP can only grow more, and a status as the greatest collaborative fiction project of perhaps all time could possibly be achieved. Unless one of their anomalies gets into the universe, seeing how 2020 is going.